I noticed. Is that why you helped us because of how she looks? It's why I stopped, but it's not why I stayed. Caleb picked up the awl again, started working on the saddle. I stayed because what's happening to you kids is wrong. Because somebody had to stand up. Because I spent 4 years feeling dead inside, and when I heard you all in that barn, something woke up. What? Hope, I guess. Or maybe just purpose. The feeling that there's a reason to keep going. He glanced at Sam. You gave me that. All 6 of you. Sam was quiet for a long time. Then he stood up, brushed off his pants, and held out his hand. Thank you, Mr. Caleb, for teaching me about the leather. And for the other stuff, too. Caleb shook his hand man to man. You're welcome, son. Sam started toward the barn door, then stopped. I want to stay here, if that's okay. When this is all over, I mean. I want this to be home. It already is. The boy nodded once, quick and sharp, then walked out into the cold. The days began to take on a rhythm. Mornings, Caleb would make breakfast for everyone. The kitchen crowded and chaotic with 6 children and 2 deputies all trying to eat at once. He learned that Grace liked her eggs runny, that Hannah wouldn't eat meat, that Jesse needed his food, cut into tiny pieces because he was still learning to chew properly. Afternoons were for lessons. Rosie had discovered Ellie's old books and was determined to teach the younger children to read. She'd set them up in the main room, all of them cross-legged on the floor, and drill them on letters and sounds with the intensity of a schoolmarm twice her age. A is for apple, Grace would recite dutifully. B is for bear, Hannah would whisper. C is for cowboy. Toby would shout from his bed, still weak, but getting stronger every day. Jesse just watched, silent as always, but his eyes were bright, taking everything in. Evenings were the hardest. That's when the memories came for all of them. Caleb would sit by the fire, and one by one, the children would drift over. Not to talk necessarily, just to be near him, to feel safe. Grace was the most vocal. She'd tell him about her mama, about the pretty house, where they'd lived before everything went wrong, about the nice lady who'd promised to take care of her, but hadn't. Do you think Mama can see me from heaven? I do. Do you think she's happy there? I think she's watching over you every single day. And I think she's real proud of how brave you've been. Grace considered this. I wasn't brave. I was scared all the time. You can be both. Brave doesn't mean not scared. Brave means doing the right thing even when you're scared. Caleb stroked her curly hair. You kept going, Grace. You didn't give up. That's the bravest thing anyone can do. She smiled bright as sunshine despite everything. I like it here, Mr. Caleb. Can we stay forever? Forever's a long time. I know. That's why I'm asking. Caleb looked at her, this little girl who'd lost everything, and somehow still believed in forever. Yeah, sweetheart, you can stay forever. Hannah was harder to reach. She spoke so rarely that every word felt precious, dropped into silence like stones into still water. But she watched. God, how she watched. Those blue eyes followed everything, noticed everything. Caleb would catch her studying him when she thought he wasn't looking, assessing, calculating, trying to figure out if he was really what he seemed. One evening, she approached him while he was washing dishes. Just stood there silent until he turned around. You need something, Hannah? She held out a piece of paper. On it, drawn in charcoal, was a picture of the ranch. The house, the barn, the mountains in the background. And in front of the house, 6 small figures standing next to one large one. Did you draw this? She nodded. It's beautiful. Something flickered in her eyes. Pride, maybe, or just relief that he'd understood. That's us, she said quietly. Our family. Family. The word hit Caleb like a thunderbolt. Hannah, He stopped, not sure what to say. Thank you for this. It means more than you know. She almost smiled. Almost. Then she turned and walked away, leaving him holding that piece of paper like it was made of gold. He hung it on the wall that night, right above the fireplace where everyone could see it. When Rosie noticed, she didn't say anything, just squeezed his hand and went back to teaching Jessie the alphabet. On the 7th day, Marshal Sterling returned. Caleb saw him coming up the valley road and felt his stomach clench. The marshal's face gave nothing away, but there was tension in the set of his shoulders, the way he rode slightly faster than necessary. News? Sterling dismounted, tied his horse to the rail. Hargroves made his move. What kind of move? Legal. Filed papers with the territorial court claiming unlawful seizure of contracted laborers. He's got 3 judges in his pocket, and one of them agreed to hear the case. When? 5 days from now, in Buffalo. Caleb's jaw clenched. So he's trying to use the law to take them back. Trying, yes. Whether he'll succeed is another matter. Sterling pulled a sheaf of papers from his saddlebag. I've been doing some digging. Turns out Hargrove's contracts have some problems. Technical violations, signature irregularities. Nothing that would matter to a corrupt judge but to an honest one. Can we get an honest judge? Working on it. The territorial governor owes me a favor, and he's none too happy about what's been going on in those mountains. He might be willing to appoint a special magistrate, someone outside Hargrove's influence. Might be. Politics is never certain, Mr. Thornton. But I've got another card to play. Sterling lowered his voice. Hargrove's nephew works in my office, deputy named Webb. Caleb remembered the young man with the honest eyes. I met him. Jonas Webb is a good man, and lately he's been having doubts, asking questions about his uncle's operation, questions that are making certain people nervous. You think he'll turn? I think he already has in his heart. He just needs a push. Sterling met Caleb's eyes. And a reason to believe that turning won't get him killed. What do you need from me? I need those children to testify. All of them who can. I need them to stand up in front of a judge and tell the truth about what happened in those mines. Caleb thought about Rosie, about Sam, about little Grace, who still believed in angels. The idea of putting them through that, making them relive their trauma in a courtroom full of strangers. They've been through enough. I know. But their testimony might be the only thing that saves them. That saves other children like them. Sterling's voice was gentle but firm. Hargrove's been operating for years because nobody's been willing to speak against him. These kids are the first. If they stay silent, he wins, and more children suffer. It was an impossible choice. Protect the 6 in front of him or fight for all the others still trapped in those mountains. I'll ask them, Caleb finally said. But it's their decision. I won't force them. Fair enough. That night, Caleb gathered them all in the main room. The fire crackled and popped, casting warm shadows on the walls. Outside the wind howled, but inside it was safe. Warm. Almost peaceful. I need to talk to you about something important, he began. 6 pairs of eyes fixed on him, waiting. There's going to be a trial, in town. The marshal wants to stop Mr. Hargrove for good. But to do that, he needs people to tell the truth about what happened in those mines. People who were there. You mean us, Rosie said flatly. I mean whoever's willing. Nobody's going to force you. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. Silence stretched out. Then Sam spoke. What happens if we don't testify? Then Hargrove might win his case, get the children back, or at least enough legal cover to keep operating. Other kids will end up in those mines. Other mamas will... He stopped, not wanting to finish that sentence in front of Grace and Jessie. And if we do testify, Rosie asked, what then? Then we've got a chance. A real chance to shut him down for good. The children looked at each other. That silent communication, again the language of shared suffering. Sam spoke first. I'll do it. Sam, you don't have to. I know. I want to. His voice was steady. What they did to Hannah, what they tried to do. Somebody needs to say it out loud. Somebody needs to make them answer for it. Hannah reached over and took his hand. Didn't speak. Just held on. I'll testify too, Rosie said. For Mama. She died trying to protect me. The least I can do is tell people why. One by one they agreed. Even Toby, still weak, propped up in his bed, insisted he would tell his part. Only Jessie stayed silent, but Jessie was only 3. Too young to understand, too young to speak in a courtroom. Caleb looked at them, these 6 broken children who'd somehow found the courage to fight back, and felt something swell in his chest. I'm proud of you, he said, voice rough. All of you. Whatever happens, I want you to know that. We're scared, Grace admitted in a small voice. I know, sweetheart. So am I. But we're going to do it anyway. Yeah. He opened his arms and she ran into them. The others followed one by one, until all 6 children were pressed against him in a tangle of arms and legs and warmth. We're going to do it anyway, together. Marshal Sterling left at dawn to finalize preparations for the trial. Caleb spent the morning running the children through what to expect, how the courtroom would look, the kinds of questions they'd be asked, the importance of telling the truth even when it was hard. What if we mess up? Grace worried. What if we say something wrong? Just tell what happened in your own words. That's all you have to do. What if Mr. Hargrove's there? What if he's looking at us? Then you look right back. You show him you're not afraid anymore. But I am afraid. Caleb knelt down to her level. Grace, can I tell you a secret? She nodded wide-eyed. Every brave person you ever heard of was afraid. Every single one. The difference is, they didn't let the fear stop them. They felt it, and they kept going anyway. He touched her cheek. You've already done that. You ran through the snow for 3 days. You survived things no child should ever have to survive. This is just one more thing to get through. And when it's over, you'll be free. Really free. Forever. She thought about this for a moment. Then she stood up straighter, squared her small shoulders, and nodded. Okay, I can be brave one more time. That's my girl. The afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. Caleb was chopping wood when he heard the horse approaching. His hand went to his rifle instinctively, but he relaxed when he saw the rider's face. Deputy Jonas Webb. Alone. Webb dismounted slowly, looking around like he expected to be shot at any moment. Deputy. Mr. Thornton. Webb took off his hat, twisted it in his hands. I need to talk to you, about my uncle. Caleb set down the axe. I'm listening. I know what he's done, what he's been doing for years. I've known for a while, but I told myself it wasn't my business. Told myself there had to be some explanation. Webb's voice cracked. But there's no explanation good enough. Those children. What he did to them? Why are you here, Webb? Because I can't live with it anymore. Because I'm done pretending I don't see. He looked up and there were tears in his eyes. I've got documents, records from my uncle's operation, contracts that were forged, payments to judges, lists of children who disappeared. Caleb's heart started beating faster. You're willing to hand those over? More than that. I'm willing to testify. Tell everything I know. Webb swallowed hard. My uncle's going to kill me for this, but I'd rather die honest than live as his accomplice. You know what you're giving up. Everything. Webb almost laughed. My family, my career, probably my life. But those kids in there, they gave up everything too, and they didn't have a choice. He met Caleb's eyes. I do, and I'm choosing to do what's right, even if it's too late to matter. Caleb looked at this young man, barely more than a boy himself, standing on the edge of a cliff and preparing to jump. It matters, he said quietly. It always matters. He brought Webb inside, introduced him to the children. Watched their faces shift from fear to confusion to something like understanding when Webb explained who he was and what he was offering. You're Mr. Hargrove's nephew, Rosie asked, her voice sharp. I am. And you're turning against him. I should have done it years ago. I was a coward. But I'm trying to do the right thing now. Rosie studied him for a long moment. Then she said, "My mama used to say, it's never too late to choose good, even if you chose wrong before." Webb's eyes filled with tears. I hope she was right. She was about most things. That night, Caleb sat with the documents Webb had brought, page after page of horrors laid out in cold, precise handwriting. Names of children bought and sold, payments to officials, death certificates that listed accident or illness when the truth was something far darker. By the time he finished, his hands were shaking and his jaw ached from clenching. Tomorrow they would ride for Buffalo. Tomorrow the real fight would begin. But tonight, there was just the fire and the wind and 6 children sleeping peacefully for the first time in months. Caleb stood in the doorway of the back room watching them. Grace curled against Hannah. Toby propped on pillows, color finally returning to his cheeks. Sam on the floor near the door, still keeping watch, even in sleep. Rosie with Jessie tucked under her arm, protective, even in dreams. His family. That's what they were now. Not by blood, but by choice. By the bonds forged in fire and terror and the desperate need to survive. He would kill for them. He would die for them. And tomorrow, he would fight for them with everything he had. The ride to Buffalo took most of the morning. Caleb kept the children close, Rosie and Sam on horses of their own, now the younger ones doubled up with deputies. Marshal Sterling had sent 8 men as escort, enough to discourage any ambush, but not so many as to leave the town undefended. Grace chattered nervously the whole way, asking questions about everything she saw. Hannah stayed silent, her blue eyes fixed on the horizon. Toby dozed against the deputy, carrying him still weak, but determined to be there. And Jessie clung to Rosie like a burr, his small fist wrapped in her coat. Sam rode beside Caleb, spine straight, jaw set. The boy hadn't slept the night before. Caleb had heard him pacing, had seen the light under his door until almost dawn. "You ready for this?" Caleb asked quietly. "No, sir." "That's honest." "Ain't much point in lying about it." Sam's voice was tight. "I keep thinking about what I have to say. About Burke. About what he tried to do to Hannah. What I did to stop him." "You did what you had to do." "I know. But saying it out loud in front of all those people..." The boy swallowed hard. "What if they think I'm a monster?" "They won't." "How do you know?" Caleb considered the question. "Because the people who matter, they'll see the truth. They'll see a boy who protected someone he loved. That's not monstrous. That's human." Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I never had anybody call me human before. At the camp, we were just numbers, just hands to work the tunnels." "You're more than that. You always were. They just couldn't see it. And you can. Clear as day, son. Clear as day." Buffalo appeared through the trees, just before noon, bigger than Caleb remembered. More buildings, more people, more noise. The kind of town that was growing fast, drawing settlers and businessmen, and all the complications that came with civilization. The courthouse sat at the center of everything, a 2-story brick building with pillars out front and a flag snapping in the cold wind. People had gathered on the steps in the street, pressed against the windows of nearby shops. Word had spread about what was happening today, and it seemed like half the territory had come to watch. Marshal Sterling met them at the edge of town. "Hargrove's already inside, got 4 lawyers with him and about a dozen supporters." The marshal's face was grim. "But we've got the documents Webb brought, and I managed to get Judge Morrison appointed to hear the case. He's from Denver. No connections to Hargrove." "Is that enough? Guess we'll find out." They dismounted near the courthouse, and immediately the crowd pressed closer. Caleb heard whispers, saw fingers pointing at the children. "Those are the ones." "So small. How could anyone?" "I heard they worked in the mines, 12 hours a day. Hargrove should hang for what he's done." But there were other voices too, colder ones. Runaway laborers, nothing more. Man's got legal contracts. Can't just ignore the law. Those children are property. Sad, but that's how it is. Caleb's hand found Rosie's shoulder, steadied her when she started to tremble. "Don't listen to them," he murmured. "They don't know what they're talking about." "Some of them do." Her voice was bitter. "They just don't care." He couldn't argue with that. Inside the courthouse, the air was thick with tension. Rows of benches filled with spectators, all eyes turning, as Caleb led the children down the center aisle. At the front, behind a table piled with papers, sat Silas Hargrove. He looked different from the last time Caleb had seen him. Calmer, more confident, dressed in an expensive suit with a gold watch chain gleaming at his vest. Like a man who knew he was going to win and was just going through the motions. His eyes found Caleb's across the room, and he smiled. That same cold smile from the ranch. The one that said, "I always get what I want." Then his gaze shifted to the children, and the smile widened. Rosie's hand tightened on Caleb's arm. "That's him," she whispered. "That's the man who killed my mama." "I know, sweetheart. But he can't hurt you here, not in front of all these people." He hurt her in front of people. Didn't stop him then. Before Caleb could respond, a door opened, and the judge entered. An older man with silver hair and a face that gave nothing away. He took his seat, surveyed the crowded room, and banged his gavel. "This court is now in session. The matter before us is the petition filed by Silas Hargrove for return of contracted laborers currently in the custody of one Caleb Thornton." The judge's voice was flat, procedural. "Mr. Hargrove, you may present your case." Hargrove's lead lawyer stood, smooth, polished, with the kind of confidence that came from never losing. "Your Honor, this is a simple matter of contract law. My client entered into legal agreements with the parents or guardians of these 6 children. The contracts are properly executed, properly witnessed, properly filed with the territorial office. They clearly establish my client's rights to the labor of these minors until the terms of service are complete." He held up a stack of papers. "The children in question fled my client's lawful custody without authorization. They were then taken in by Mr. Thornton, who has refused to return them despite repeated requests. This is quite simply theft. We ask the court to order their immediate return." The judge turned to Marshal Sterling. "And the defense?" Sterling stood, his weathered face calm. "Your Honor, we contend that the contracts in question are fraudulent, obtained through coercion, and in some cases signed by individuals who had no legal authority to bind these children. Furthermore, we have evidence that Mr. Hargrove's operation has engaged in systematic abuse exploitation, and in at least one case murder." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Hargrove's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Those are serious allegations," the judge said. "Do you have evidence to support them?" "We do, Your Honor. We have documents obtained from Mr. Hargrove's own records that show a pattern of criminal activity spanning years, and we have witnesses, the children themselves." Hargrove's lawyer shot to his feet. "Your Honor, the testimony of children, especially traumatized children who have been influenced by Mr. Thornton, cannot be considered reliable." "That's for the court to determine." The judge's voice was sharp. "Marshal, you may call your first witness." Sterling turned to the benches where the children sat. "We call Rosalie Brennan." Rosie stood slowly. Her face was pale, her hands trembling, but her eyes were fierce. She walked to the witness stand, climbed up into the chair, and faced the room. Caleb wanted to go to her to stand beside her, but he knew he couldn't. This was her fight now. All he could do was watch and pray. "Rosalie," Sterling began gently, "can you tell the court your full name and age?" "Rosalie Mae Brennan. I'm 7 years old." "And can you tell us how you came to be at Mr. Hargrove's camp?" Rosie took a shaky breath. "My mama and me, we went there for work. She was a cook. After my papa died in the mines, we didn't have nowhere else to go. What happened when you arrived? At first it seemed okay. Mama worked in the kitchen and I helped her. But then Mr. Hargrove started. She stopped, her voice catching. Take your time. He started looking at me, talking about me to his men, saying things like how pretty I was, how I'd bring a good price. Her small hands gripped the arms of the chair. Mama heard him. She got scared, tried to leave. What happened when she tried to leave? Mr. Hargrove said we owed him money, for food and shelter and such. Said the only way to pay it off was for Mama to sign a contract. Give me to him. And did your mother sign? No, sir. Rosie's voice cracked. She said she'd die first. The courtroom had gone completely silent, every eye fixed on this small, fierce girl with her dead mother's courage. What happened then, Rosalie? He beat her, made me watch, said it was a lesson about what happens when people say no to him. Tears were streaming down her face now, but she didn't stop. Mama grabbed a knife, tried to fight back, and he... She choked on a sob. He shot her, right there in front of everyone. Objection. Hargrove's lawyer was on his feet. This is hearsay. The child is traumatized and unreliable. Overruled. The judge's voice was ice. Continue, Marshal. Rosalie, what happened after your mother was killed? She told me to run, last thing she ever said, so I ran, found the other kids along the way. We stuck together, kept each other alive until Mr. Caleb found us. Sterling nodded slowly. Thank you, Rosalie. No further questions. Hargrove's lawyer approached the stand like a snake circling prey. Miss Brennan, you say your mother was killed by my client. Did you actually see him pull the trigger? Rosie's chin lifted. I saw him holding the gun. I saw the smoke. I saw Mama fall. But you didn't see the actual shot being fired. I saw enough. You saw what you thought you saw. A traumatized child in a chaotic situation watching her mother die. Is it possible you're mistaken about who fired? No, sir, it ain't possible. How can you be so certain? Rosie's eyes locked onto Hargrove, who sat watching with that cold, calm expression. Because he smiled. Right after. He looked at me, and he smiled. Like killing Mama was funny to him. Another murmur through the courtroom. Someone in the back started crying. The lawyer pressed on, but Rosie didn't waver. She answered every question with the same fierce certainty, refusing to be confused or intimidated or broken. When she finally stepped down, Caleb caught her in his arms. You did so good, sweetheart. So good. I told them, she whispered against his chest. I told them what he did. Yes, you did, and they heard you. Every single person in this room. Sam was next. He walked to the stand with his jaw clenched and his shoulders squared, looking more like a soldier than a 9-year-old boy. Sterling led him through the basics, how he came to the camp, what the work was like, how the children were treated. Can you describe the conditions in the mines, Sam? Dark, hot, hard to breathe because of the dust. We worked 12 hours a day, sometimes more. If we slowed down, they beat us. If we got sick, they left us in the tunnels until we either got better or... He stopped. Or what, Sam? Or we didn't. Did you ever see children die in those mines? Yes, sir. 3 that I know of. Cave-ins mostly. Or the cough that comes from the dust. Once you got that cough, you didn't last long. Hargrove's lawyer objected repeatedly, claiming bias, unreliability, trauma-induced confusion. The judge overruled each time, his expression growing darker by the minute. Then came the question Caleb had been dreading. Sam, can you tell the court about the man named Burke? Sam's hands gripped the arms of the chair so hard his knuckles went white. Burke was one of Mr. Hargrove's men. He watched Hannah, one of the younger girls. Watched her in a way that wasn't right. What do you mean by that? The way a wolf watches a lamb, like he was waiting for his chance. Sam's voice shook, but he pushed on. One night I heard Hannah scream, found him dragging her toward the back buildings, the ones where they took the girls who... Take your time, son. I knew what he was going to do. Everyone knew what happened in those buildings, so I grabbed a rock, hit him, kept hitting him until he stopped moving. The courtroom erupted. Shouts, gasps. Hargrove's lawyer demanding the boy be arrested for murder. The judge banged his gavel until silence returned. "You killed a man?" the judge asked quietly. "Yes, sir, to save Hannah. He was going to hurt her real bad, and there wasn't nobody else to stop him." "How old were you when this happened?" "9, sir. Same as now." The judge stared at Sam for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. Something that looked almost like respect. "Thank you for your honesty, son. You may step down." One by one the other children testified. Toby still weak, telling about the dust and the cough and the boys who disappeared. Grace somehow still able to smile, describing her mother's death and the nice lady who'd sold her to Hargrove. Even Hannah, quiet Hannah who never spoke, whispered her story to the silent courtroom. The only one who didn't testify was Jesse. Too young, too traumatized, too lost in whatever world he'd retreated to when his mother died. But he didn't need to. By the time the children finished, half the courtroom was in tears. Then came Jonas Webb. Hargrove's face changed when his nephew took the stand. For the first time, real fear flickered in those cold eyes. "Mr. Webb, can you state your relationship to the defendant? He's my uncle, my mother's brother. And your occupation?" "I was a deputy in Buffalo, but before that I worked at my uncle's camp. Helped run the operation." "Can you tell the court what that operation involved?" Webb took a deep breath. "Children, mostly. My uncle would find families in debt offer to take their kids as payment. Sometimes he'd buy them outright from orphanages or workhouses. Sometimes he'd just take them when no one was watching. And what happened to these children? They worked the mines, the small tunnels where grown men couldn't fit. 12, 14 hours a day, no pay. Barely enough food to keep them alive. What happened when they couldn't work anymore?" Webb's voice dropped. "They disappeared. My uncle called it processing. Said they went to other operations, other camps. But I saw the graves, up in the high meadow where he thought no one would find them." "You're saying children died and were buried secretly?" "Yes, sir. Dozens of them over the years. Maybe more." The courtroom had gone deathly silent. Hargrove's lawyers were conferring frantically, their confidence shattered. "Why are you coming forward now, Mr. Webb?" "Because I can't live with it anymore." Webb's voice cracked. "Because I looked the other way for too long, and children died because of it. Because those kids sitting there," he pointed at Rosie and Sam and the others, "they had the courage to run, the courage to fight back, and I figured if they could be brave, maybe I could too." He looked directly at his uncle. "I'm sorry it took me so long, but I'm done being a coward." Hargrove's lead lawyer stood for cross-examination, but his voice had lost its smoothness. "Mr. Webb, you expect this court to believe you'd testify against your own family. I expect this court to believe the truth. And what is that truth? That you betrayed your blood for strangers. That I finally chose to be a decent human being." Webb's eyes were steady. "Something my uncle never taught me, but I learned anyway." The documents came next. Page after page of Hargrove's records entered into evidence. Forged signatures, payments to corrupt officials, lists of children with terminated written next to their names. By the time Sterling finished presenting the evidence, Hargrove's confident smile had vanished entirely. The judge called for a recess. Caleb took the children outside, let them breathe fresh air, drink water, try to process what they'd been through. Rosie sat on the courthouse steps, staring at nothing. "You okay?" Caleb asked, sitting beside her. "I don't know. I feel empty. Like I said, everything I had inside me, and now there's nothing left." "That's normal. What you did in there, what all of you did, it took everything you had. It's okay to feel wrung out." "What happens now?" "Now we wait for the judge to decide." "What if he decides wrong?" Caleb didn't answer, couldn't, because the truth was, He didn't know. The law was supposed to protect the innocent, punish the guilty. But he'd seen enough of the world to know it didn't always work that way. The recess lasted an hour. When they filed back into the courtroom, Caleb noticed that Hargrove's lawyers looked defeated. Hargrove himself sat rigid, his composure cracking around the edges. The judge took his seat, surveyed the room, and cleared his throat. In the matter of Silas Hargrove versus Caleb Thornton, I have reviewed the evidence and heard testimony from multiple witnesses. The petition for return of contracted laborers is denied. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Hargrove shot to his feet. This is outrageous. I have legal contracts. Sit down, Mr. Hargrove. The judge's voice was thunder. Your contracts are fraudulent. Your operation is criminal. And based on the testimony and evidence presented today, I am ordering your immediate arrest on charges of murder, kidnapping, and trafficking in children. Deputies moved forward. Hargrove's lawyers tried to object, but it was useless. Within moments, the man who had terrorized so many children was in chains being led out of the courtroom. He passed Caleb on the way out, stopped, leaned close. This isn't over, he hissed. I have friends, powerful friends. You think a conviction will stop me? I'll be out in a year. And when I am, I'll find you. I'll find those children, and I'll make you all pay. Caleb met his eyes without flinching. You can try, but you'll have to go through me first, and I ain't as easy to kill as you might think. The deputies pulled Hargrove away. The courtroom erupted in cheers in tears in the chaotic release of tension too long contained. And in the middle of it all, 6 children clung to each other and to the man who had saved them, finally understanding that they were free. Really, truly, completely free. The weeks after the trial passed like water finding its way downhill, slow at first, then faster, then settling into a rhythm that felt almost natural. Caleb filed the custody papers on a Tuesday morning, standing in the territorial office with his hat in his hands and his heart in his throat. The clerk, a gray-haired woman with spectacles perched on her nose, looked at the forms and then looked at him. 6 children. Mr. Thornton. All at once. Yes, ma'am. That's quite an undertaking for a man on his own. I reckon it is. She studied him for a long moment, then smiled. Those are lucky children. I can tell just by looking at you. I'm the lucky one, ma'am. They saved my life as much as I saved theirs. The papers went through without a hitch. Marshal Sterling had made sure of that, pulling every string he had to smooth the process. By the end of the month, it was official. Rosalie, Samuel, Hannah, Tobias, Grace, and Jesse were legally Caleb Thornton's children. His family. The word still felt strange on his tongue, like a language he'd forgotten how to speak. But every day, it got a little easier. Rosie was the first to call him Papa. It happened on a Thursday evening, unremarkable in every way. She was helping him with dinner, standing on a stool to reach the stove, when she turned and said, "Papa, can you hand me the salt?" Then she froze. Her face went red. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I know you're not really—" Rosie. Caleb set down the pot he was holding. "I am, if you want me to be. But your real children are gone, and nothing's going to bring them back." He crouched down to her level. "But that doesn't mean I can't love again. Doesn't mean my heart is closed forever. You and your brothers and sisters, you opened it back up. And I'm grateful for that every single day." Her eyes filled with tears. "So it's okay if I call you Papa?" "It's more than okay. It's—" His voice caught. "It's everything." She threw her arms around his neck, and Caleb held her while dinner burned on the stove, and neither of them cared. Sam took longer. The boy had been hurt too deeply, trusted too little to let down his guard easily. He called Caleb Sir for weeks after the trial, maintaining that formal distance like armor. Caleb didn't push, just kept showing up, teaching Sam about the ranch, about horses, about all the things a father teaches a son, waiting for the walls to come down on their own time. It happened in the barn late one night when Caleb found Sam crying in the hayloft. "Hey, Caleb climbed up, settled beside him. "What's wrong?" Sam wiped his face angrily. "Nothing. I'm fine." "You don't look fine." "I said I'm fine." Caleb waited. Didn't speak. Just sat there in the darkness, letting the silence stretch out until Sam couldn't hold it anymore. "I had a dream," the boy finally whispered. "About my mama. The real one. The one who sold me." "What kind of dream?" "She was reaching for me, crying, saying she was sorry, saying she didn't have a choice." Sam's voice cracked. "And I wanted to forgive her. I wanted to so bad, but I couldn't. I just kept running away from her." Caleb let out a slow breath. "That's a hard dream. I'm a bad person, for not forgiving her, for being angry." "No, son, you're not." Caleb put a hand on Sam's shoulder. "Your mama made a choice, a terrible choice, and you have every right to be angry about it. Forgiveness isn't something you owe her. It's something you give yourself when you're ready. If you're ever ready." "What if I'm never ready?" "Then that's okay too. The anger doesn't make you bad. It makes you human." Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then so softly Caleb almost didn't hear. "My mama never hugged me. Not once that I remember. Come here." And Caleb pulled the boy into his arms, held him while he sobbed, rocking gently like he'd done with Benjamin a lifetime ago. Sam clung to him with desperate strength, and somewhere in that moment the walls finally came down. "I want to call you Pa," Sam said through his tears. "Is that okay?" "That's more than okay, son. That's perfect." Hannah never called him anything out loud, but she started leaving things for him, drawings mostly, pictures of the ranch, the horses, the mountains, and always in every picture a tall figure surrounded by smaller ones, their family. One morning, Caleb found a picture on his pillow. It showed him sitting by the fire, with all 6 children around him. At the bottom, in careful wobbly letters, were the words, "My Papa." He kept that picture in his pocket for the rest of his life. Toby recovered slowly. The cough never fully went away, but it got better with time and medicine and proper food. The doctor came out once a month to check on him, always leaving with the same prognosis: the boy would never be strong, but he would live. That was enough. Toby took to ranch life like he'd been born to it. He couldn't do the heavy work, but he had a gift with the animals. The horses calmed under his touch. The chickens followed him around the yard like he was their king. Even the ornery barn cat, who hated everyone, would curl up in Toby's lap and purr. "I want to be a veterinarian," Toby announced one day at breakfast. "When I grow up, I want to help animals the way Dr. Finch helps people." "That's a fine goal," Caleb said. "Going to take a lot of studying." "I don't mind studying. Sam's been teaching me to read. I'm getting pretty good." "Is that so?" "Show him," Rosie urged. Toby grabbed a book from the shelf, one of Ellie's old novels, and started reading aloud. His voice was halting at first, uncertain, but he pushed through. Word by word, sentence by sentence. A boy who'd been told he was only good for crawling through mine tunnels, reading literature. Caleb had to look away, so the children wouldn't see him cry. Grace remained Grace, sunshine despite everything. The child who sang to chickens and believed in angels and refused to let the darkness of her past dim the brightness of her soul. She called Caleb Daddy from the start, as if it had never occurred to her to call him anything else. "Daddy, look at this flower. Daddy, can I have another biscuit? Daddy, will you tell me a story before bed?" Every time the word hit him like a gift he didn't deserve. Every time he said yes. But it was Grace who asked the hardest question one night when Caleb was tucking her in. "Daddy, is Mama watching us from heaven?" Caleb's heart clenched. "Which mama, sweetheart?" "Both of them. My real mama and your real wife. Are they friends now up there?" He thought about Ellie, about Grace's mother, who died in a laudanum haze, about all the pain and love and loss that had brought them to this moment. "I think they are," he said finally. I think they're looking down at us right now, real proud of how we've put ourselves back together." Grace smiled. "I like that. I'm going to dream about them tonight." "You do that, sweetheart. You dream about all the people who love you." "That's a lot of people now." "Yes, it is." Jesse was the mystery. The youngest child, barely 3 years old, hadn't spoken a word since his mother died. He followed Rosie everywhere, clutching his ragged blanket, watching the world with enormous brown eyes that seemed to hold too much knowledge for someone so small. Caleb didn't push, didn't demand, just made sure Jesse always had food in his belly and a safe place to sleep and someone to hold him when the nightmares came. And then one spring morning, Jesse spoke. They were sitting on the porch, watching the sun rise over the mountains. Jesse was in Caleb's lap, wrapped in that blanket, when he suddenly looked up. "Papa." Caleb's heart stopped. "What did you say?" Jesse's small hand touched his face. "Papa." "Yes, little one, I'm your papa. Mama's gone." "I know, son. I'm so sorry. But you're here." "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Jesse considered this for a long moment. Then he nodded once like he'd decided something important and snuggled closer. He still didn't talk much after that, but he talked, and every word was a victory. Spring melted into summer. The ranch came alive with 6 children running and laughing and getting into trouble. Caleb found himself busier than he'd been in years. Fixing fences, they climbed building furniture. They needed cooking meals for 8 instead of 1. He'd never been so exhausted. He'd never been so happy. Martha Sterling came to visit in June, bringing pies and books and the kind of practical wisdom only a woman who'd survived child labor herself could offer. "You're doing good," she said, watching the children play in the yard. "Better than good. You're healing." "They're healing me. That's how it works. Broken people helping each other mend." She smiled. "My mother used to say that's what family is. Not blood, but choice. The decision to stand together, even when it's hard." "Your mother was a wise woman." "She was. And so is yours in her own way." Caleb didn't understand at first. Then he followed Martha's gaze to where Rosie was organizing the younger children into some kind of game, her voice carrying across the yard with the authority of a general. "She's not. Maybe not by birth. But that girl mothers those children as surely as any woman ever mothered anyone. You gave them a home, Mr. Thornton, but she gives them structure, safety, love." Martha patted his arm. "You're raising something special here. Don't ever forget it." Word came in July that Silas Hargrove had died in prison. Marshal Sterling brought the news himself, riding up to the ranch on a hot afternoon with his hat in his hands and a complicated expression on his face. They found him in his cell yesterday morning. Heart gave out, they say, though there's some who think one of his fellow prisoners might have helped it along. Caleb felt nothing. Not joy, not relief, not even satisfaction. Just emptiness where the rage used to be. "Do the children know?" "Not yet. Figured you should be the one to tell them." He gathered them that evening after dinner in the main room that had become the heart of their home. "I have something to tell you," he said. "About Mr. Hargrove." Rosie's face went pale. Sam's jaw clenched. The younger children moved closer together, instinctively seeking comfort. "He died. In prison. He can't hurt anyone anymore." Silence. Then Grace asked, "Is he in heaven with our mamas?" "No, sweetheart. I don't reckon he is." "Good." Her voice was fierce. "He doesn't deserve to be where they are." "No, he doesn't." Rosie stood, slowly walked to the window, stared out at the mountains. "I thought I'd feel different," she said quietly. "When he was finally gone. I thought I'd feel free." "And you don't?" "I feel nothing. Like it doesn't matter. Like he already took everything he could take, and dying doesn't give any of it back." Caleb went to her, put his hands on her shoulders. "That's the truth of it, sweetheart. Revenge doesn't heal. Justice doesn't undo what was done. All we can do is keep living, keep moving forward, keep building something good out of the wreckage." She turned to look at him. "Is that enough?" "It has to be, because it's all we have." Sam spoke up from his chair. "I'm glad he's dead. I know that makes me bad, but I am." "It doesn't make you bad. It makes you honest." Caleb looked at all of them, these 6 children who'd been through hell and come out the other side. "You're allowed to feel however you feel. Anger, relief, nothing at all. There's no right way to process something like this." "I feel relieved," Hannah whispered. It was the most she'd said in weeks. "I kept thinking he'd escape, come back for us. Now I know he can't. He can't, ever again." The children drifted off to bed one by one, leaving Caleb alone with his thoughts and the dying fire. He sat in the chair that had been Ellie's in the house that had been their home, surrounded by ghosts and memories and the sounds of 6 children sleeping peacefully. 4 years ago, he'd wanted to die. Now, for the first time in longer than he could remember, he wanted to live. Fall came with a blaze of color and the first whispers of winter. The children went back to their studies, taught by a schoolmarm who rode out from town 3 times a week. Sam proved to have a gift for mathematics. Rosie devoured books faster than Caleb could get them. Toby struggled, but persevered, his determination outweighing his difficulties. And one October morning, something miraculous happened. Caleb was repairing the barn roof when he heard it. A child's voice, high and clear, singing. He looked down and saw Grace dancing in the yard, twirling with her arms out, face turned up to the sun. And beside her, holding her hand, was Jesse, singing. His voice was thin, uncertain, the words of the song barely recognizable. But he was singing. This child who hadn't spoken for over a year, who'd retreated so far into himself that Caleb had feared he'd never come back, was singing. Caleb climbed down from the roof so fast he nearly fell. He stood at the edge of the yard, watching, hardly daring to breathe. Grace spotted him first. "Daddy, look, Jesse's singing with me." Jesse stopped suddenly, shy, pressing close to his sister. "Don't stop," Caleb said gently. That was beautiful. "He's been practicing," Grace said proudly. "In our room at night. I've been teaching him." Caleb knelt down, opened his arms. Jesse hesitated, then toddled over and let himself be held. "I'm so proud of you," Caleb whispered. "So proud." Jesse's small voice was barely audible. "Love you, Papa." "I love you too, son. More than you'll ever know." The first anniversary of finding the children came in December. Caleb didn't make a big deal of it, didn't want to dredge up the trauma of that terrible day. But the children remembered anyway. "1 year," Rosie said at breakfast. "1 year since you found us." "Best day of my life," Caleb said. "Even if I didn't know it at the time." "Mine too." She reached over, took his hand. "Thank you. For stopping. For not just riding past." "I couldn't have ridden past if I'd wanted to. Something in your scream just grabbed hold of me. Wouldn't let go. Mama used to say God works in mysterious ways. Your mama was a wise woman." "She was." Rosie's smile was sad but peaceful. "I miss her every day, but I think she'd be happy, knowing we found you, knowing we're safe." "I hope so. I know so." That night, Caleb did something he hadn't done in 4 years. He walked up the hill to the 3 graves behind the house. Ellie, Benjamin, Charlotte. His first family lost to fever and time. He stood in the cold snow falling gently around him and spoke. "I brought some new folks home. 6 of them. Kids who needed someone to fight for them." He cleared his throat. "I hope you don't mind. I hope you understand that loving them doesn't mean I love you any less. It just means my heart got bigger. Had to hold all this." The wind stirred the snow, soft and gentle as a caress. "Rosie reminds me of Charlotte. Same fierce eyes, same stubborn chin, and the others. They're teaching me things I forgot I knew. How to laugh, how to hope, how to wake up in the morning and be glad of it." He touched Ellie's headstone. I miss you, love. Miss you every day. But I'm not drowning anymore. I'm swimming. And I think that's what you'd want for me." A branch cracked behind him. Caleb turned to find Sam standing there, a lantern in his hand. The others were worried. "It's getting cold." "I'm coming." Sam stepped closer, looked at the graves. "Your first family." "Yes." "Do you tell them about us?" "I do." "What do you say?" Caleb smiled. "That I'm the luckiest man in the world. That I got a second chance I didn't deserve. That they'd love you all as much as I do." Sam was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I think they'd be proud of you, Pa, for what you did, for who you are. I think they'd be proud of you too, all of you." They walked back to the house together, the lantern casting a warm glow against the snow. Through the windows, Caleb could see the others. Rosie reading by the fire. Grace and Hannah playing some kind of game. Toby and Jesse curled up together on the couch. His family. Not perfect. Not unbroken. Scarred and wounded and still learning how to trust, how to love, how to believe in tomorrow. But together. That was what mattered. That was what made it real. Caleb opened the door, stepped inside, and was immediately surrounded by warmth. By voices. By small hands reaching for him, wanting to show him things, tell him things, share things. "Papa, look what I drew." "Pa, can you help me with this problem?" "Daddy, Grace took my biscuit." Did not. The noise should have been overwhelming. Instead, it sounded like music. He sat down in his chair, let the chaos wash over him, and felt something settle into place in his chest. Something that had been broken for 4 years, finally healing over. Grace climbed into his lap. Jesse toddled over to lean against his leg. Toby started reading aloud from his book, while Hannah listened quietly. Sam and Rosie argued good-naturedly about something that didn't matter. A year ago, Caleb had been dead inside. A year ago, these children had been running for their lives through the snow. Now they were home. Really home. With a father who would kill for them, die for them, live for them. And live he would. For as long as God gave him. For every sunrise and every sunset. For every scraped knee and every bedtime story. For every tear wiped away and every laugh shared. This was his second chance. His redemption. His resurrection. And he would not waste a single moment of it. The fire crackled. The wind howled outside but couldn't get in. And Caleb Thornton, the man who'd wanted to die, sat surrounded by the family he'd never expected to find, and finally understood what it meant to be alive. Some stories end with tragedy. Some end with triumph. This one ended with something better. Something truer. Something that lasted beyond the final page and echoed into years and decades, into grandchildren and great-grandchildren, into a legacy of love that started with a scream in a frozen valley and became a song that never stopped singing. It ended with family. And that was enough. That was everything.